Welcome back to my channel. My name is Malika and I am doing a video here to talk about human design, or some of you may know it by human design systems. I wanted to talk about this because for the past couple of months I was introduced to human design through social media, and like everybody else, when there's something new and you take these little things, personality definers and things that you feel like might be able to help you find your purpose or live a better life, live in alignment, you get excited about them. So I wanted to share my experience with human design, but I do want this to be very informative. And so I'm going to take you through a lot of information. All in all, by the title, it says human design exposed, and the reason why I titled it that way is because what I have seen within human design, especially within the groups and looking at certain videos on YouTube from people within the human design community, I became very quickly turned off by the behavior of some of those people within the group. Now, I am not saying that you should not do human design, that you shouldn't experiment with human design. What I'm saying is that you may not be aware of what you're getting yourself into, especially if you're really deeply rooted in your spiritual journey. Human design is not spiritual whatsoever, and you will see a lot of infighting within the human design community once you dive deep into it, where people who follow what they call source material versus popular human design, there's a lot of infighting going on because people feel like you should not be doing any other type of spiritual type of practice while utilizing human design, which I found alarming, due to me just being a very spiritual person and knowing that my connection with source is everything. And I don't care what you call the creator. It's whatever you feel. But I'm just saying, once I realized that, it made me really look at human design with a deeper eye, and really investigate and see why I was starting to feel differently about this, because I really go off my intuition very hard, and I get these nudges about certain things, and I'm just like, wow. It's like when you first begin to learn about human design, you think, oh my God, this is amazing, this stuff resonates. And that's another thing that I want to say. It's not that you're not going to maybe resonate with some of the information that you learn through getting your human design chart. It's just that once you get deeper into it and you really see how some of the people within the community operate, it's a really huge turnoff. And for me, spiritually, it's a huge turnoff when you are basically saying, don't have any type of relationship with God. And there will be people that come under here and say, that's not what it's about, and blah, blah, blah. But I am going to share with you resources that prove my point here, and let's just get into it. So we're starting off with Jovian Archive. And Jovian Archive is like the definitive place to get your body graph, although there are many, many places which you can get your body graph. I actually got my body graph on mybodygraph.com, and then I got another body graph from Karen Curry Parker, who does quantum human design. And I didn't pay for any of them, but I'm just sharing with that. But let's dive deeper into what human design is. So it says, what is human design? The human design system is a synthesis of ancient and modern sciences and has proven to be a valuable tool for human understanding. With human design, you discover what makes you different from everyone else. It offers profound insights into your psychology along with strategies and techniques for making correct decisions and ultimately leading to a life of more ease and fulfillment. See, it already sounds great. And this is what I'm talking about. I'm just pausing in between. That when you're in a hopeless place, or you're really searching for your purpose, or you're going through things in life and you're wondering why you might not fit in, and etc., these are the types of things that are happening in the New Age community that are drawing you in, trying to help you. And I'm not saying that you can't find help through some of these practices. I'm saying you need to be very discerning and aware of what you're getting yourself into with a lot of these New Age practices. Okay? So it says down here, it's not, oh, sorry about that. Let me go back. Okay. It's not about faith. Let's see. Hold on. Oh, there it is. Okay. Okay, computer. Please. I don't want this up here. I don't even know how to remove this now. I'm sorry, y'all. Why is this here? I don't even know how to actually don't pin it. Okay, there it is. Sorry about that. This is not, it says, it is not built on belief or faith, but is a logical, empirical system that offers you the opportunity to experiment with its mechanics and find out if it works for you. So once you dive deeper into human design, because it's becoming very popular right now. And so everybody's not really diving deep into the actual system. They're surface level, and that's how it usually is. People are gaining surface level information, and they're not diving deep, and they're implementing this into their spiritual based businesses and practices, but without having a full actual understanding of how this was created. And it's very important to understand how this system was created. So let's go to Jovian Archive and we'll talk about how this was created. Ra-Uru-Hu, aka Alan Robert Krakauer, he was born in Montreal, Canada in 1948 on April 9th. He's basically a very successful businessman who had a magazine, did media, poetry, stuff like that. But I want to scroll down here to this point right here. And all this information, I can bring it up for you. But basically, they're giving you a very watered down version of who this man is. They're saying that he earned a bachelor's of arts degree and his career path led him into the business world of advertising as an advertising executive, a magazine publisher, a media producer. The arts were important to Ra, and he expressed himself as a composer and a performer throughout life. It's a very cute way of, talking about this man. So in 1983, he leaves Canada to travel, and eventually he finds his way to the island of Ibiza, where he spent several years working as a school teacher. But they don't talk about how he was very much so into psychedelics. And it said that he went on this trip for 8 days in Ibiza, and that's how he came with this system. So this is their way of presenting it. In January 1987, he had an unusual mystical experience followed by an encounter with a voice, an intelligence far superior to anything he had ever experienced. This encounter lasted for 8 days and nights, during which he received a transmission of information, what is known today as the human design system. Okay. So in 1989, after his encounter with the voice, Ra Uru Hu wrote The Rave I Ching, the foundation upon which human design rests, and the key to unlocking the code of our genetics. As the oldest of the Chinese texts, the I Ching, or the Book of Changes, it is an ancient divination tool for over 3,000 years. And basically, they just go on to talk about how he dedicated his life to the system and blah, blah, blah. So I just want to go over here to Wikipedia. And I know there will people that push back on me and say Wikipedia is incredible, but Wikipedia has listed its sources. So you can also go here and look this up for yourself. Human design is a New Age inspired practice. Its proponents describe it as a holistic self-knowledge system. Its effectiveness has not been confirmed by peer-reviewed research. But if we go back, it did say that it was based on modern sciences. But yet, if it was based off of modern scientists, surely there would be some peer-reviewed studies on it. And then it goes on down here to talk about how human design analysis, in human design analysis, planets are displayed in a type of horoscope called a body graph. The body graph shows 64 hexagrams of the I Ching, which we already know is a 3,000-year-old practice, called stemming from the Book of Changes. But the body graph shows the 64 hexagrams of the I Ching at various locations on the body. It is sometimes shown with a mandala overlaid on the 12 signs of the zodiac. Human design also addresses dietary regimen and ideal environments for living, working, and relationships. So that's what Wikipedia is saying, and again, it has its references at the bottom. Now, I do want to go here, and this is an article by Catherine Dean, and of course, this is going to be subjective for her point of view, but this is what I find interesting, and from my experience within the human design community and being on these private Facebook groups, I can attest to what she is saying does have and hold some weight to it. Okay, so she basically talks about how there is, before I move to this, let me just go here first. Before I move to this, this is a very, and I mean very critical analysis of human design, a critique of it, but this man goes into detail. This is Morton Tobal. And I just want to talk about, again, like how the system was created. Basically, Ross says that HDS is not here because of him, but because of a supernova in 1987. Remember, he went to Ibiza during this time, and he was a avid psychedelic user, and there's nothing wrong with psychedelics, and I feel like people experience very cool things during that, but that doesn't make it right. But he was basically saying that mankind was influenced by a neutrino stream from this supernova, precisely in the 8 days and nights where Ra received the information about HDS. It was, by the way, the first time a supernova could be watched with the naked eye, and took place in Chile. Okay, so I just wanted y'all to kind of get what I'm saying here before I go back to this article. So again, let's talk about what Catherine Dean says. There's an ongoing issue in the spiritual community of practitioners. Ooh, I need to stretch, y'all. There's an ongoing issue in the spiritual community of practitioners taking the corrupt and exclusive origins of a white man's teachings to suit themselves. There's many reasons for this bypassing act made in the name of money and knowledge, with big name astrologers and tarot accounts, the first to spread the word about their latest topic of interest. Smaller accounts can feel pressured to stay up on trends they set. And the reason why this is important for me to bring up is because HD kind of took us by storm in the spiritual community, the astrological community, in the 2021 time frame. She goes on to say, and you can read all of these articles yourself, you guys. I'm trying to keep this short and concise as possible. So let's talk more about the founder of human design. The founder of human design, Ra Uru, born Alan Krakauer, I'm probably butchering his last name, but it is what it is, was born into Canada into a wealthy family. After he earned a bachelor's degree of arts, his career path led him into the business world as an advertising executive, magazine publisher, and media producer. He's not exactly struggling to get by. He ran off to parties in Ibiza during 1987 during the height of acid-induced rave parties. So I should have highlighted that earlier, but I forgot to. On his trip, he manifested the system after a mystical encounter with the voice, who gave him the ideas of the tenets, the 4 types that are presented. Now, there is a little bit of what I see as an argument going on in the community between whether there's 4 or 5 types, but we're going to stick to the 4 types. And the 4 types are manifestors, generators, projectors, and reflectors. So when you take this body graph and you put in your birth time, your date of birth, and your name and all of that, it's going to calculate this all together, and you're going to be put up under one of these categories. For me, because I know there will be people that are interested, I am a 5-1 projector, mental projector. With no inner authority, and my strategy is waiting for the invitation. And I'm not going to get into that. If you want to go deeper into how this system truly breaks it down for you, then by all means go ahead and do that. He does not refer to people as humans with emotions or a soul. And she goes on to talk about some of the comments that he's made about generators in reference to them being slaves, the slaves of like people. And I had a big problem with that. Someone within the Facebook group, and I am going to name the group here. Just give me a second. I'm going to name the group because I feel like it's important for me to name the group. Give me a second. Human Design Projectors page on Facebook. I've been in that group for a little bit of a while. And what I have witnessed in that group is from some people, is pure elitism, white privilege, because the majority of the people within that group are white, even though they reside all around the world. And I have seen some of the most rigid viewpoints ever. And within that group, there is a moderator there, of course, and he posted a whole quote where Ra Uruhu was talking about projectors and how when we try to operate like generators, he akined it to being a slave, and if generators operated like projectors, then they would be like a slave. Well, as a person who directly descends from American chattel slavery, I found that to be insensitive, and I posted a comment to that post, and I said that that was a bad analogy and it was very insensitive, because whether you're using that as an analogy or not, there are actual people around the world, and I can only speak to my experience, but within my experience, I come from direct lines of people who were enslaved. Um, and I know people will say slavery was a long time ago. It actually was not. There were slaves still being freed up into the early 1900s. And I believe there's even one account of slaves being freed around the middle 1900s. If I'm wrong, please correct me, but I think that I'm right. So, and my grandmother picked cotton in the 1960s, and was still treated like crap. So, for somebody who has directly experienced that within their family and is not far removed from it, as many people will say, it was very insensitive, and I thought that and I made a comment about it. So this person proceeds to tell me that it's not an analogy and that it's the truth. When you're, according to the system, when you're operating not in alignment, we'll just say, not with your human design and your strategy, you are a slave to another person's strategy or another way of living. And I get it, but I felt it was insensitive. This person goes on to basically white explain to me that slavery, not the moderator, but people who were defending the moderator, were like, this system isn't racist and we're not about race or economic status and all of this stuff are not. But there was slavery across the world. I was just like, I don't need a world history lesson from you. This is a group. This is a comment section, and I have the right to make my comment, whether you agree with it or not. And the reason why I'm not showing screenshots is because I am respecting the privacy cap from her blog, her article. A rich white man develops an exclusive program after an acid trip in 1987 based on only his perception and no one else holding him accountable, pervasive techniques and paywalls, because what you're going to learn is when you get into the human design community, and this falls up under my video that I did about everything wrong with the new age spirituality community, or in general, is that people want to charge you for everything. They always want to sell you a course. They always want to sell you this, that, and the third. And you think they have your best interests at heart. And some, very few do. But the majority of people are capitalist, and they just want to profit off of get the full chart, and to really understand it, they're going to charge you a paywall. Okay, they're going to charge you for that. They're going to charge, and if you further don't understand, they're going to charge you for classes. Oh, here's a class for your design. Here's your class so you can learn how to be in healthy relationships with your design. Here's a class so you can have a better business with your design, and so forth and so on. And you know what? I have no issue with courses, except for Use your discernment when you are purchasing a course from somebody who is purely just trying to regurgitate information that you can find on the internet, or a person who really doesn't have your best interests at heart and has possibly stolen information from other people to put in their course, because that's going on a lot as well too. So basically, pervasive techniques, paywalls, if this, and they do claim that this is knowledge that everyone should have. And there are people in the community, in the human design community, that say Ra would never have wanted a paywall and all this and stuff like that. But all you see now is paywalls, and he did die of, I believe, a heart attack. But anyways, if this knowledge, they do state that this knowledge is supposed to be for everyone, but because it's supposed to be by the people and for the people, but it's not easy to access this information. Even though with a bit of research, and I mean hard research, that you can kind of figure it out. Red flag, she says. Very little information on him and his background and his family. Archive does not directly control. And by archive, they mean Jovian Archive, because Jovian Archive controls his image, and they control the image of human design. Indirect buzzwords, shaming, rhetoric aimed at the majority for being not their true selves. So they feel a need to fix themselves and listen to somebody else other than their own inner intuition, which is a big thing within the New Age community. Anyways, like I was trying to tell y'all, appropriation of spiritual cultures, particularly Chinese and Vedic. Why not instead put your money and research towards actual cultures and practitioners who teach it properly, which is something I talked about in Everything Wrong with New Age Spirituality. Get as close to the source of the information as you can, because most people are selling you a whitewashed, watered down version of it anyways. Class hierarchy, slave types. I hate that. It's very insensitive, and honestly, it is, in my opinion, it can be considered racist, because the majority of slaves are Black people around the world were slaves. I'm not saying that there weren't other slaves, but I'm saying in the majority. And I'm not going to debate that with anybody. Okay. And deliberately confusing language. And it says, I have been incredibly disheartened how many even non-white spiritualists have quickly done an about face to capitalize on the next trendy, shiny concept. When we use this mindset to make money and teach our communities, we are perpetuating cult behaviors and systems. And I couldn't agree more, because I'm totally sick of it. This is why I'm doing these videos. If you read no other article, please go and read this critique of human design system. It's phenomenal, in my opinion. So I want to get into some key points. I mean, it would take me all day to really get towards all the key points in this article, but I just want to point out a few key points. And just so everyone knows, before I get into that, I did read this definitive book for human design here that you're seeing, hopefully. Yeah, you're seeing it. I did read this book. It's $50. I read it. And I also read this book, Human Design, Discover the Person You Were meant to be. And again, when you first tap into these books and stuff like that, it's so amazing, and you feel whatever, you feel like something finally gets you. And I'm not saying you can't take principles from this, but be very careful, you all, be very careful once you get inside it. I also have read Understanding Human Design, The New Science of Astrology by Karen Curry Parker, and her little guides that she gives you when you sign up for her newsletter and all of that. I've read all of that, just so you know. Like, I'm not just doing this because I read a few articles that go along with my indication that this is a problematic system, which I feel in a way it is. Okay, so let's read this. As with other New Age directions, there in HDS seems to have gone inflation in the thought of distortion research has, as with other New Age directions, there in HDS seems to have gone inflation in the thought distortion research has shown that a phrase which often is used to convince the listener about that the one who talks can reason what he says with concrete empirical proof. But with this is often just an example of subjective argumentation, a kind of unethical manipulation often based on wishful thinking, because it is extremely vague to claim that research has shown anything unless you can reason the assertion with specific details about the claimed research. Who has carried out the research? With which methods were they're used? What exactly did they find out? Have their results been confirmed by others who work within this area? And I'm going back. There has been no peer-reviewed research on this. Okay? So to claim it's scientific is false. Now, you might be able to claim that it's pseudoscience, and, like, people will debate astrology. It doesn't have any standing, but it is based off, and when I say any standing, I mean like scientific communities in America don't recognize it as a science. That's what I mean. But it is based off astronomy. So let me go down here to some more quotes that I got. Because human design falls in line with other personality systems, this comment I felt was important to read. Theories of personality types can, for example, point to many successes. They can demonstrate that their programs work. They can bring forth to testify on their behalf hundreds if not thousands of satisfied customers. But it is important to know that testimonials do not validate a self-help program. Scientifical scene this is pure nonsense and deeply manipulative. I'm sorry about that, you guys. I am losing my voice. So I want you guys to be aware of how people will play upon you in order to purchase their course or purchase a reading from them and stuff like that. And that's basic marketing, of course, but if we're talking about, as mentioned, it's science-based. Where is the peer-reviewed research? Where's the methodology? Okay, like what methods were used, etc., etc. Those of us who have degrees that require lots of research, I being including them, I am a psychology major. I have graduated, but I majored in professional psychology. All I did was research, so I know a bit about this. All right, let's keep going. This is more to point out the tactics that can be used, but it says And when therapists or a coach, as it is the case for most of the time, is lacking the ability of thinking deeper over things, then it ends in being a refined way of justifying prejudice. Personality typing is simply a way of creating a system of prejudice. And that is anti-spiritual, because spirituality is supposed to be universal. That's why I am pointing that out. Because if you go deeper into the research of human design, it even says that it was developed for women, career-orientated women specifically. But please do your own research. Do not take anything that I'm saying for fact. Do your own research. Let me see. Do I have any other highlights? Okay, I do. This talks about basically problems within the system, and it says if you actually follow HDS, then you in your opinion formation and identity formation will strive after being something else than what you are. You are imitating others, the system, are a slave of others, ideas and ideals, the personality types, and your actions will therefore be characterized by the irresoluteness and doubt. Basically, in a nutshell, what it's saying is that you're living, they call it the not self. Okay. And in the spiritual community, you can hear it many ways. You're not living in alignment. They're saying it's the not self. It could be like fakeness, basically. You're living in a fake state until you get this knowledge right. Till you start living your design and your authority. And it just goes on to talk about how it says directly opposite to what HDS itself claims, Tao Zen and the existential philosophical claim about being yourself are the last things you can combine with an instrumentally technological fixated system as HDS. Basically, what this author is trying to say is that how can you be yourself based upon a system that claims to be, and they even describe it as mechanics and stuff like that, but it's a technologically fixated system, basically. And it goes on to say, have these people not studied traditions? These traditions are directly a rebellion against any kind of authority and system. The father of existentialism, Soren, y'all know, I can't even pronounce it, so whatever, would have turned in his grave if he heard about HDS is about being yourself. Because what you realize once you get into the system is that it's very rigid. And when you get into these groups, you'll see it. Here's another example that I have. A woman, a single mom, was in this group, and she said she had just came into knowledge of HDS for the past couple of months and was trying to do research, but she's struggling. She's on assistance right now, and she was wondering if they had resources or any readers who read your chart would be willing to work with her. The admin of that group basically told her if she was living in her authority and practicing her strategy, that money would be a byproduct and she wouldn't have to, she wouldn't be living in poverty. She wouldn't be, struggling. It's sick. It's sick to me. And people went on to comment, oh, just utilize the free resources within the group. There's nothing wrong with that comment. But the amount of people that began to scold people in that thread was astounding to me. And I'm like, This is crazy. And for projectors, we have to wait for the invitation to do major things in our lives, such as have a career and travel, get married, date, stuff like that. And there are people that come in that group and they ask all the time, like, oh, I want to do Reiki. Do I have to wait for the invitation to do Reiki? And the admin and the other staunch, like, I don't even know what to call them. People will just be like, yes, you have to wait for the invitation and da 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 and all this stuff. And people will say like they lost their jobs and they need to move or relocate. Oh, you have to wait for the invitation to get to move. You have to wait for the invitation to find another job. You have to wait. So are we going to become homeless just because we need to wait for a proper invitation? I find that asinine. Like, I find that totally crazy. And that's what let me know that a lot of these people are privileged. And because the majority of the people are white, I'm going to say they have white privilege. Now, y'all can debate me in the comments all you want to, but I don't care. It's just crazy the comments that I've seen. All right, so I think that's all I had, but please read that article, you guys. And one of the last things I wanted to share here is this is a empath. Her name is, I just want to share her name. Her name is Tanisha K. Silla. And we're going to read what she wrote about human design, which I loved. And I'm going to hopefully, I thought my highlights would come back, but it says, apparently the new spiritual escape from astrology and a practical method of charting how to best direct your energy based on the decisions you make. Now, nobody asked me, but if they did, I would say this was way more suspect than any psychic reading I've ever done. And she's talking about HDS, and I'm just going to highlight it again since it unhighlighted, and I don't know why. She says we have to normalize spirituality being mystical. We do. The real problem with these alternative forms of spirituality, if FOMO must lead you, is going to drive you off a literal cliff and hand in hand with your friends one by one. But it doesn't have to be that way. And then she goes on to talk about, on a personal note, every time one of her current or former clients hears about some new spiritual fad, I'm expected to give them the green light to pursue it or be prepared to answer for something I may not even have heard about. The average person doesn't even know what they are seeking in spirituality. In group sessions and individual intuitive coaching, I have asked too many times, what are you seeking? And the most popular response is to feel better. People are seeking the divine spirit, our universal source, for a sense of gratification. This desperate need to feel good and to not only self-soothe, but to have others soothe their every inclination, including validating absolute absurd concepts. We have to stop playing with spirit. But I'm going to come back to this point. Understand, when you seek validation from your intuitive coach, a spiritual guide in their own right, about another form of spirituality, it should be obvious that something about that modality does not resonate with you. Let me say it one more time. Understand that when you seek validation from your intuitive coach, a spiritual guide in their own right, about another form of spirituality, it should be obvious that something about that modality does not resonate with you. I'm almost done, y'all, I swear. Now we're going to skip down to here. Let me highlight it. Allow me to share my personal experience with a human design practitioner. Let's just call her Alice. Alice was in emotional shambles when we met. She was quite nervous about her intuitive session with me. I felt her energy all day before we spoke. Her fear was that she would be exposed, and she was. Alice has no less than the coveted 10K followers on IG. She is making a hard sell for women empowerment through human design and admittedly is telling women whatever they want to hear to allow her to be a digital nomad. Let's be clear. She only admitted after the message that she received. Excuse me. Let's be clear. She only admitted this after the message she received said this explicitly. It was a hard truth for her to face and still hasn't been accepted because she is still active in manipulating people for personal gain. Her connection with human design is merely because she wants to feel empowered by claiming to give others the gift of control over their lives. While it is assumed that she is intuitively gifted, Alice's real energy is one of someone that is emotionally unstable and completely insecure, nor does she practice the empowerment tactics that she is selling. I don't know about you, but this is not the type of person that I want to guide me in the simplest task, much less make a major decision about my life. And let's just pause right here because she talks about this in her blog post too. We're coaches. And when I say we're coaches, I used to put myself in that category. I ain't in that category right now. Okay? You want a coach. You don't want a guide. Can't nobody lead you to spirituality and God except for you. And that is from you going within you. Okay? She goes on to say, we have to accept spirituality for what it is. Human design is faulty in that it makes an attempt to eliminate spirit as the source of all things, whereas astrology is inclusive of the spiritual aspects of the universe and energy. If you truly expect to create a connection with yourself and more deeply connect with others, avoiding the universal source is not the way. And I didn't mean to highlight this, but I love the way that she ended off with this article. So basically, after me making this long, drawn out, it's not drawn out. I really feel like I had to go through this to just share with you guys. Yes, human design, when you're first getting into it, it's great. You might even resonate with that stuff. I still resonate with some of it. But what I've seen from the behavior of these groups within the actual community itself is that there's a lot of infighting going on right now about popular HD versus source material, which is Ra Uruhu. And popular HD, it adds in manifesting and manifesting for your type, business strategies and all this stuff. Like, it makes it fit in more with spirituality. And there's a lot of fighting. If you do a quick YouTube search and you type in popular human design versus New Age spirituality, you'll see a few videos. You'll even see a video if you type in what's wrong with human design. You'll see a few videos. If you type in is human design a cult, you'll see people talking about it. You can read some Reddit threads of people's personal experience. What I experienced was elitism and privilege, white privilege, and people who probably never struggled a day in their life and never will. I've seen some of the most And the way that they talk to people within these communities, especially people new in the communities, they call them human design tourists. Um, they talk to them in the most condescending language, which is how I was talked to. But you ain't gonna talk to Malika that way, because Malika is going to tell you about yourself. Okay? So also let me just show y'all real quick a couple of let me just show y'all, if I can find it, photos. Let me show you. I don't know why it's not showing. Let's see. No, that's not it. Give me 1 second. I don't know why it's not showing. I wanted to show y'all a tweet. But my computer is being a little cray-cray. Let me try this one more time. I wanted to show y'all a tweet, but I don't know why my computer is basically not doing that. Okay, so it's not going to allow me to show the screenshot for some reason. It's just not bringing up. So I'm just going to read it and I'll tell you who wrote this. It's by Human Design Facts at Human Design Fact. Human design is not spiritual. It addresses questions of spirituality and ethics, ecology, biology, politics, and most things. It's a science and an art broadly applicable. It's definitely not a science. Even though it wants to say it is, it's not. And another tweet that I want to share. Hold on. Of course, my computer. Let me see. Putting together these webinars are hard. I'm just saying. It says, and this one is by a reader, Onyx something. I can't see the name. But and it's blurred out a little bit because I was going to show y'all and I wanted to protect their identity since I didn't have their permission. It says, think about it. What might motivate a guy who previously in advertising and magazine publishing at a time 80s when acid and ecstasy were rising in popularity and middle-class new age appropriated spirituality to claim he'd worked out a system of human design after a visit with a voice? And the person is basically getting at that this is cultural appropriation and that these people basically just want to have money, gain money. And this is one of my issues with the New Age spiritual community, even though human design claims not to be spiritual. One of my issues is just that there's a lot of cultural appropriation going on, and I just don't like it. So I want you to be aware that if you enter into these groups, you may find yourself being talked down to. You may find that there's this rift. If you go on Instagram, you will even see it. People who are source material HD people and people who are pop HD, and there's like this rift going on. Me personally, I just don't want to follow a system that basically is taking me away from source. And that's what might be happening to you. And that's why I did this overview. And I know it's long, but yeah, I'm kind of going to end it here. I don't know. Maybe I should break this down into parts. But I'm going to kind of end it here. I've just seen way too much going on in this community. And this is my part two to everything wrong with the New Age spiritual community. So please be aware of what's going on in these groups. I'm not saying that HD can't help you. What I am saying is that the way to get to learn yourself and have that relationship with source, if you care about that, is not going to be through this system. And do not be easily swayed into purchasing courses and readings and blah, blah, blah that may not even be worth it for you in the long run. Okay? I just want you to be aware of that. I really care about y'all well-being. I know this was long, but it is what it is. I just wanted to share my experience with this group. And like I said, there are some things I learned in it that I still like and I still utilize. But to be a part of it, no, not at all. And that's how I feel about a lot of these New Age spiritual things that are going on. I don't want any parts of it. I'm not here to be a part of a predatory community with predatory people who only really want to capitalize off of, again, your pain, your lostness, you're feeling like you don't have your purpose, you going through traumatic events in your life, childhood trauma. I don't want to be a part